Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. What is up, 5%ers, and welcome back to another episode of the 5% Radio Podcast. Today is episode number 71. Can't believe it, and I'm excited to talk to you about counting the seeds in an apple. We're going to start off with a couple quotes, a weekly win, shout out, and then I want to really dive into just kind of setting the stage for exactly what we are going to talk about. So we are 71 episodes deep into the show, which is madness to me that we are already that far. But weekly win, I want to give a shout out to Jake and Haley. They were at a leadership conference this past weekend with my wife and I and some of our other partners. And I really feel like they made some major decisions to get their family completely financially free by November of 2025. They are absolutely crushing what we do, and I just cannot wait to see what comes out of the next 13 months for Jake, his wife Haley, and their family, and they're currently working on growing their family as well. So just super exciting stuff there. Outside of that, I want to share a couple quotes, but before I do that, I want to kind of set the stage for exactly what we're going to talk about. So there's a saying that basically it says, any fool can count the seeds in an apple, but no one can count the apples in a seed. In other words, anyone can look at something, face value, and say, well, this is exactly what this is worth. Here's how many seeds there are. Here's exactly what's inside this. But no one can determine what's going to happen from those seeds. So you don't know if I'm going to plant all those seeds, if nothing's going to happen, if they're going to grow an orchard, if only one of those seeds is going to sprout. I can't really determine that. I can't determine if one of those seeds is going to sprout and then grow another tree that grows another tree, and then those seeds all get planted and an orchard grows out of that. But what I can do is look at the apple and say, well, there's the seeds, there's the potential, there's at face value, this is what this apple is worth based on what's inside it. But I can never determine, based on what's inside it, what's going to happen in the future. And there's a lot of people that, I'll kind of get into this, but there's two types of people in life. We'll talk about your places of origin and how this really determines exactly what you do with your life. I'm a little stuffed up today, so if I kind of jumble some words, that's what's going on. I got some congestion. I picked that up from both my boys, which is cool. So anyway, it's based on your place of origin. So that's one thing we'll discuss. I also want to discuss how it really matters based on that view, what you actually do with what is inside you. And then I'm going to close with some reading that I just did in a book that was written back in, I think, 2009 by two leadership authors. But let's go ahead and dive into the quotes, and then we will get into the meat and potatoes of the show. This quote is by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make and manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. I like that part right there. She goes on to say, and as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Napoleon was quoted as saying this, impossible is a word only to be found in the dictionary of fools. I want to talk to you about greatness in seed form today. See, I believe, and we'll get to the two types of people here in a moment, but I personally believe, and I have always felt this way, that everyone is born with potential inside them. Every single person. No one were, if they were in a hospital, no one walks into a hospital in the nursery. If all the infants were in there years ago, they used to actually take the children from the parents, with permission. And a lot of times they would put them in the nursery so mom and dad could sleep and the babies would sleep. And now most hospitals don't do that. But you would not walk into a hospital and go room by room. If you could go in and see each baby that was born on any given date, you wouldn't walk in and be like, okay, yeah, this baby looks like a millionaire. This one looks sharp. This one looks like he or she is going to do something with their life. This one looks like they're talented. This one kind of looks like they're going to be a loser. This one looks, pretty unintelligent, probably just going to work a menial job, never really do anything great. This one looks lazy. Like, that doesn't happen because the baby's born as a blank slate. But I believe that every single person is born with something inside them, something that they uniquely are supposed to do. Otherwise, they would not have been created. I don't believe that God just creates creation for nothing. I don't believe that he allows people to come into the world just to wander around for their whole life, do nothing with it, breathe their share of the air, eat their share of the food, and then die with a little, dash on their tombstone that represents here's the year they were born, here's the year you died, and here's the dash in between. Well, what'd they do? Well, they worked a job. Yeah. What else did they do? Well, they ate. What else did they do? Well, Bob really watched a lot of TV. What else did Bob do? That was actually pretty much. He had a couple kids. What did they do? Well, they did nothing as well. But he was a nice guy. Like I don't think that's why we're put here. And if you don't agree with that, then we'll get to origins in just a moment. But based on your view of the world, your worldview, your perception of the origin of people, are we born with greatness? Are we born with potential, or is it just for some people? See, just like a seed that's planted, a seed needs water, it needs sunlight, it needs fertilizer, it needs all these things in order that it may grow. It's not just something that you put in the ground and then you just leave there and boom, it grows. It's something that you have to work on, you have to nurture, you have to give attention to, you have to look at where is it planted. If it's dry, if there's no rain, I better go make artificial rain. I better go water that little sucker. I better go make sure that there's fertilizer. I better make sure that I bury it deep enough down. I better make sure that all these things happen in order for that seed to grow. No one plants a garden and then it's just like, well, we haven't had rain in weeks, but I'm not going to water it because it's got everything it needs out there. Like you take care of those things because you expect and you desire something to grow from what you've planted. And I believe there's been something planted in you, not the other person listening to this, not the person that, I don't know my audience. I don't know. Like you, the person listening right now, whether it's in your car, whether you're at your house, whether you're at work, whether you're running, walking at the gym, you right now, you listening to this episode right now, I believe there's been something planted in you, some potential. There was something that you were born with. Maybe no one ever encouraged it. Maybe no one ever brought it out. Maybe no one ever told you that anything was in there, but I believe that everyone has something in them and they were born to bring that out. I fully believe that with everything in my being. See, in order for it to grow bigger, it's got to grow larger inside first. Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, talked about this concept that internal victories precede external victories. In other words, there's got to be growth inside. If you're looking at a seed, if we're going back to that analogy, there's got to be growth down in the soil. Something has to grow down. It has to grow larger. It has to get a network that it can be attached to. It has to draw nutrients. It has to do something to get larger, to feed, to get larger, to feed, to get larger, to feed, to finally break through the surface and grow. And only then, after all of this work, all of this effort, all of that time, when you're like, oh, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. If you've ever seen those time lapses of flowers or plants or vegetables, and it just goes from nothing, you see it break through the soil, and then all of a sudden there's this beautiful plant, and you're like, wow, it happened so fast. It takes time. It takes time. So will you. So will the gifts inside you. And if you're already on this journey, you know that I'm absolutely correct with this. And Steve J. Larson, he runs a marketing podcast. If you're looking for hardcore marketing advice and you're not already listening to Alex Hormozy, I would highly recommend going there. If you're already listening to Alex Hormozy and you're like, maybe I want a different flavor of speaker, man, Steve Larson's podcast, Steve J. Larson, is absolutely phenomenal. But one of the things that he talked about is the idea of the parallel journey, and I mentioned this in previous episodes, but the parallel journey is I've got an external journey. In other words, the markers of achievement, how much money I'm making, how high I'm succeeding, whether it's weight loss, my relationships, whatever else, the things that people can see are improving. And then there's an internal, so there's a parallel. There's an external, what I can see, the markers other people can see. There's basically obvious evidence that, hey, something's happening in their life. And then there's the internal. In other words, what's going on inside, beneath the surface, in your mind, in your heart, that no one knows about besides you. There's two journeys. And I've got to be growing internally, or otherwise I will never grow externally. I sit down with so many people. And what my wife and I do, I sit down with so many people. And I'm convinced that every single person can live an absolutely phenomenal lifestyle. They all have gifts to express. They all have something to offer other people. They have something uniquely to bring to the world. I fully believe this. And I sit down with so many people that are just flat out lazy. Flat out lazy. They're not willing to develop. They're not willing to push. They're not willing to grind. See, we've got this argument going on in politics right now, and it's absolute crap that people want to talk about equality of results, equality of results, equality of results. Well, this person, they've made so much more money because they started off this color, they started off that color, they're this race, so they were born here, they were born there. It's garbage. I don't care where you started. Someone has done more than you in their lifetime, and they had more going wrong for them than you do right now. and they've done more than you. They had more setbacks. They had more roadblocks. They had more obstacles. They had more financial trouble. They had more discrimination. They were born in a worse country. They had less money. They had a worse family. They had an abusive childhood, all this different stuff, and they've done more with their life because they believe there's something inside, and I've got to bring it out. I'm responsible, not the government, not some person that I'm waiting on, not the right job, not the right... no one else is responsible but me. See, there's equity, and they want to talk about equality of results, which basically says, hey, this dude works super hard and is therefore super rich, and this guy also works super hard but is poor. We should give them both the same results because maybe this guy that makes a little bit less, maybe he started out further back. Well, tough. Life is not fair. And if you try to artificially make it fair, it is then by default unfair because the person that works harder than the person who's lazy and gets the same result, what happens? The guy who's currently working hard and getting a great result versus the person that's lazy, if you give them both the same result, eventually, over time, guess what, geniuses? And I'm talking about the people that are forcing this idea down America's throat right now. Well, everyone needs equality of results. That's garbage. The person who's working hard, getting great results, will eventually quit producing those results because if I have to work my butt off and the other guy barely works, and we both make the same money, we both have the same opportunity, we both have the same doors open, why would I continue to work super hard? So I sit down with people, and they want to cry me a river about all the bad things going on in their life. I'm not trying to be tough here, but you got something great inside you. Do you think it's just going to come out just willy-nilly, just super easy, like, oh, boom, and then they got rich? Like every biography, every single movie that people want to watch, Rudy, all these different movies, and people are like, Rocky movies sold, probably billions of dollars at this point, all the gazillions of different movies they've done, the Gladiator, all these, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, all these different stories. There's a dream, there's a struggle, there's a victory, there's a desire, I want to do this. There's a struggle, there's this whole journey, and then there's a victory. Like, it's not just like, oh yeah, I want this, and then like, halfway into the movie, he gets it, and the rest of it's about how great his life is, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have part 2. It's a continuation of how great his life is. No struggle. Like, it doesn't happen that way. But, see, it's got to grow bigger below the surface before it ever comes out, and most people do not make the journey from it beginning to grow to the surface. It grows deeper. Most people never actually get to where it breaks through to the surface. They never actually get to where they've developed their gifts. They, so to speak, die with their songs still in them. They're too lazy to push through all the pain, and they've been sold this bill of goods that if it doesn't come easy, it's not worth it. Don't work too hard for success. It's not worth it at the top. Don't push too hard. Don't sacrifice too much. We've literally got people right now that I would love to help, and they're not willing to sacrifice. Sacrifice is the production of sacred things. Sacrifice is the production of, in other words, you will produce things that are sacred, and you will produce incredible results if you are willing to sacrifice. It's sowing and reaping. I have to put something in to get something out, and I can't expect to plant a seed and then put nothing into it and get something out. You've got to be willing to invest. You've got to be willing to invest into yourself, whether that's time, whether it's struggle. You may have to go through some things emotionally. I heard one guy talk about, I can't go into detail, but he had an absolutely incredibly horrible childhood, and he was told that the only way to get through this is probably to log, this is what his counselor told him, probably to log 10,000 hours of crying. A grown man. He had been through some absolutely horrible things. And there had been like 25 years where he had not been single for more than a week because he was so wounded, and that was the way that he dealt with stuff, was relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship. And this counselor told him, like, look, you need to take some time, take a step back, and you need to just cry this out. You need to just deal with these emotions, these demons. You just need to deal with this stuff. Rather than continuing to try to push forward and outwork a deficiency, you've got to go work on what's inside. You've got to grow below the surface if you want to grow above the surface. The two types of people in the world. First type of person is that there's someone who believes that everyone has great potential. They just need development. They just need someone to bring it out. They need the encouragement. They need the person to believe in them. They need that. Man, if they just had the right people, if they just had the right environment, if they just had the right development, if someone was just there to help them bring it out, I believe they could be great. Type number one. Type number two, and this is more common nowadays, unfortunately, but type number two is that we believe this. Some people just, are meant to do big things, and some people aren't. So you might as well just be average. And, if something happens, I actually heard someone say the other day, basically something along the lines of, if I ever happen to get rich, as if it was just like this, like, it's a lucky thing. That's like saying, if I ever happen to, get a six-pack, if I ever happen to have a good marriage, If I ever happen to have a good relationship with my kids, if I ever happen to have that talk with my mom or my dad that I've always needed to have, if I ever happen to pick up reading as a hobby, if I ever happen to start working out, if I ever happen to, have good financial discipline, if I ever happen to, have a car that ran well, like, what do you mean? Those are all choices. Those are all choices. If I ever happen to, live in a different state, if I was ever blessed to, if I was ever fortunate, if God ever decided, like, these are all, and there's sentences that I hear, and it's basically people that are removing themselves from responsibility. Man, it'd be amazing if my wife and I had a great relationship. Well, have you looked in the mirror and been honest enough with yourself to be like, you know what, there's some stuff inside that I've not developed, I've not dealt with, I've not managed, I've not nurtured in me that's coming out above the surface ugly? Have you done that? Have you taken the responsibility to go look in the mirror and be like, I'm the one in charge of my life? When I say that, to be clear, I'm a Christian. I don't believe that you are sovereign over God. I don't believe that you're absolutely in control and you are a little God with a small g and you're a creator and I don't believe that stuff, but I do believe that you were given free will. I do believe that you have the ability to decide. And if you can make your life better, then you can also screw your life up. And if you can be broke, then guess what? You can also get rich. If you can make your relationships negative, then guess what? You can also make them better. I hear a lot of people ask for and pray for in the Christian circles that they pray for stuff that they're unwilling to do themselves. It's like, well, let me ask the church for money again. Okay, you've got 3 new cars in your driveway, you just financed a vacation, you're wearing clothes that are way more expensive than people that make way more money than you, and you're praying for money to come into your life. You're spending money like an idiot, and you're hoping that God helps you out. Like, you've got to follow certain principles. Today, I had a cheat day. I had pizza. I had cupcakes. I had all this other delicious, incredible stuff. I'm eating super low carb right now, basically carnivore, and so that was amazing. And then last night, I had ice cream. I'm not going to eat like that every day and be like, man, it'd be so nice if I could just be as lean as fill in the blank. It'd be so nice if I ever got lean again. Like, that's garbage. A nutritionist would look at me and be like, you're joking, right? Like, you're eating pizza, you're eating ice cream, and you're wishing, like, it doesn't work that way. Like, there's things that you do. There's a formula to follow. There's ways to track your food and eat this and don't eat that and do this much exercise and exercise at this time, fasted, unfasted, go to bed at this time, get this much sleep, drink this much water, do these supplements. There's all this stuff. And you look at that and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then we look at some other area where there's no growth above the surface and you're like, oh man, if I was ever blessed enough. Like, it's the wrong thinking. So 2 types of people. Everyone's got potential within them. They just need to bring it out, which means there's stuff that they need to do. That's personal responsibility. They are in charge of bringing it out. Or I'm a victim. Hopefully it happens. Some people do big things, some people don't. Probably just meant to be average. If I was meant to be great, God would have made it happen by now. And you're working at a factory and you've never looked into anything else and you've never nurtured your gifts and you've never tried to get better thinking and you've never asked yourself, well, what do people that are financially free do? And you've never looked in the mirror and said, okay, I don't have a good marriage. No one in my family has a good marriage. What do people with good marriages do? How do they act? How do they talk to their spouse? What do they read? Who do they mentor with? Do they go to counseling? Do they pray? Is God in their marriage? Okay, I've never had good finances. No one in my family's ever had good finances. And I'm going to close out with this in the book that I'm going to talk about. No one in my family has ever had good finances. And, I mean, I guess we're just not meant to because, it's poor. We're in our genes. We got the poor gene. We just would never be rich. It's a bummer. Feel bad for us. Like, do you believe that? Many people don't believe they could ever do something great because they aren't the type of person that could do big things now. Meaning who you currently are could not achieve those big things. And that is absolutely 100% correct. And you're like, oh, this sounds disempowering. I thought you were a positive guy. Well, it's true. You right now, if you're 500 pounds, do you believe that you could run a marathon? Never at 500 pounds. You would literally die of cardiac arrest. Do you think that you could eventually run 500 pounds? Or are you going to look at yourself and be like, well, I'm not meant to run. No one runs on my family. No one's ever ran on we've never been runners, In fact, none of us can even walk very well. We just don't have the walking gene. Or do you think there would be a process that you would have to undergo to get to a healthy enough weight that you could run a marathon? The person you are right now is not capable of accomplishing your dreams. And if anyone tells you, you don't have to change right as you are, you can do X, Y, Z, they're probably trying to sell you something. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to put in time. You're going to have to read different stuff. You're going to have to listen to different information. You're going to have to unplug from cable. You're going to have to quit watching the news. You're going to have to work on stuff. You're going to have to look in the mirror and take responsibility and stop waiting for the government. Stop waiting for someone else. Stop waiting for your boss. Stop waiting for your customers. Stop waiting for whatever it is that you think your ship is going to come in, and go make it happen yourself. The type of person that you are going to be when you accomplish your dreams is not who you are right now, and that's okay. On the other side of this coin, there's that I believe that I can be great, I just need someone to bring it out, versus I believe that I'm meant to do small things and nothing, and I'm supposed to be a loser, and if God wanted me to be somebody, he'd just drop it in my lap, and, we don't have these genes. We have all that garbage. And then we have, so that's a genuine broken belief, and then we have people that are trapped in this false humility, self-degradation. If you look at that word, it's like self-degrading. They have a negative view of themselves, and it comes out in false humility. What it really is, though, is they just feel like they're worthless. You see people that are confident, then you see people that are arrogant, which is too far, which means that, they think that they're untouchable. And then there's people that have no self-worth at all. And I've heard so many arguments against self-worth and self-esteem and all this different stuff, but let me tell you this. If we are created by God, and we are, if you read the Bible, by the way, there are so many resources outside of the Bible that prove that it is accurate, that prove that it is true, that prove archaeologically, time-wise, all this different stuff, all these manuscripts. There's over 6,000 manuscripts that prove the accuracy of the Bible. Now, we look at Plato and things like that. They have like 7 copies of his works. No one ever questions that, but people are like, oh, I don't know if the Bible's accurate. Well, it gets increasingly accurate every single day, every single time they dig something up, every single time a date is confirmed, all this different stuff. But nonetheless, I digress. But if you look at the Bible, the premise is that we are created by God. Now, if you were a creator and you looked at the thing that you created, your creation, would you be like, man, I'm so glad I made that, it's worthless? No. Like, my wife and I understand that, God made the process, but like, when we got pregnant and had our son, I was never like, yeah, there's our son. I hope he does nothing with his life. I really hope that he just decides to watch a lot of TV, play a lot of video games, work at a dead-end job, never have any dreams, and just, not be concerned about anyone else, just live for his own happiness, and whatever he does, I hope he's happy. I don't care if he does nothing with his life. Like, no, I'm going to spend time on that. I'm going to invest in my sons. I'm going to spend time nurturing their gifts, and instill, I tell them every single night, I tell them, I'm proud of you, buddy. Daddy loves you. I believe that you're going to do great things. I believe that God's given you, and I tell him the gifts that he's 2.5. I tell him the gifts that I see. I see musical tendencies. I see that he loves music. I see that he has a natural affinity for timing, and I think he's going to be able to sing, and I tell him about those things because those are not just the seeds in the apple. That's what I believe can come from the seeds. And I tell him these things, and I'm not telling him that so that dad can be like, you know what, I'm going to live vicariously through my kid. Those are gifts in my life as well, but I want him to know, I see this in you, buddy. We're going to encourage you. We're going to put time into it. We're going to invest into you, not for a return for us, for a return for you. And I talk to my 2.5-year-old, and I tell him all these things, and I make sure that I pack his head with positive. And if someone's negative around him, I correct it right there in front of them. If they critique the way he says something, he's 2.5. Leave him alone. Buddy, you're doing a great job. You said that word so well. I make sure that he doesn't have limitations set up in his brain that someone else put there, and they plant a seed that he's never going to be able to do X, Y, Z. I make sure that he knows. It's 2.5. I'm investing because I expect a return in his life. But the false humility says, I don't want to make a name for myself. I'm just a nobody. I'm worth less than dirt. I'm just nothing. I wouldn't give 10 cents for my life. That's false humility. It's not a real heart attitude. Because that same person looks at their child and says, I would die for them. I would do anything for them. I would do anything to give them a better life than I had. And I'm not talking about financially or anything else, but I would do anything to make sure that they are loved, that they are cared for. I'm not going to wake up every day and look at my kids and be like, hey, you're worth less than dirt. You're going to do nothing with your life, and you're meant to be a nobody. No one would do that, but they'll do it to themselves in the way they talk in their own head. You've got to believe there's potential in you. If you don't nurture it, if you don't grow it, if you don't water it, if you don't fertilize it, if you don't put, most important thing here, work into bringing it out, you will die with it inside you. Someone needs what you have inside you. I don't care what you are, who you do. If you're like, no one in my field makes a difference. Someone needs what you have. It might only be one person. It might be 100,000. It might be 1 million, but chances are it's a lot of people. They need what you have. If you don't pursue that thing that you believe you are supposed to do, it's not going to happen. In a relay race, there's 4 people in the mile relay race. Each person carries that baton 1 lap. You can't look at that relay race and one of those runners be like, I don't really think I matter. Like, you're 25% of the race. There are so many things in my life that if they had not happened, if I had not worked and pushed through and been grinding on this and grinding on that, like when I meet these people, I would not have been ready to give them what they needed because I would have been being lazy and just being comfortable all the time. And like me sitting home watching TV, I had a meeting canceled tonight that I was super excited to go to because there's potential in other people and I want to find it and I want to bring it out and I want them to see it. I want to be around people enough to recognize their gifts and be like, you know what I see in you? Corey, you know what I see in you? Kyle, you know what I see in you? Chris, Jake, Matt, Mike, like, do you know what I see in you? I see this and I see this, and man, if you were to do this, I believe that you could do, like, I want them to walk away feeling like, man, I can be somebody. I can do something, not for arrogance, not for pride, not to say we're going to make so much money that they're going to live off it for 10 generations, not for that, but to just leave life empty. Like, you see these professional sports players and you're like, man, that guy left it everything on the field. Or that MMA fighter, man, he left everything in the cage tonight. He did everything he could. And it's so admirable. And we look at it and we see people that they perform in front of a crowd or they sing or they're a comedian. You're like, man, that guy gave everything he had tonight. And it's admirable and people love it. And then what do? We live a mediocre life. And if someone were watching our life, our performance every day, if your kids were watching how you worked at your job right now or how you worked in your business or what you did in your relationships with others, and you're like, man, I realized there was this great thing that I could say, but I decided not to because I was tired and I don't want to get the energy out. Would they be able to say that my mom or my dad, when they passed away, they left it all in the field? God gave them gifts. He gave them abilities. He gave them potential. They used everything up. I'm so proud of them. They didn't waste a second of the potential that he gave them. I believe they did what they were supposed to do. Or do you want to be on your deathbed laying there thinking, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. See, you're not going to be thinking about the things that you did and that you wish you hadn't done. You're going to be thinking, most likely, most people, you're going to be thinking about the things that you wish you had done, the risk that you wish you had taken, the shot that you wish, not that you made, but that you wish you had at least tried. The person that you should have told one more time, man, I wish I would have encouraged this. There was a story of an old painter. I'm going to close with this and then I'll read a small excerpt from this book. There was a story of an old painter. And this old man comes to this painter, this master, and he shows him, he says, excuse me, sir, I don't want to bother you, but I just had some painting, some art. I wanted you to look at it and just tell me honestly what you thought. And the guy says, absolutely. And he brings out the paintings and the artwork and the drawings, and he shows them to this master artist. And, he says, oh man, this is really good. This student shows so much potential, so much talent. If he or she were, to have the right training and this and that, they could be great. And he said, whose are these? Master's asking this guy that brought the paintings, whose paintings are these? I want to meet this artist. And the old man, the old painter says, these were mine. If I had only heard your words 30 years sooner. See, I got discouraged. I never believed that I could be great. I got discouraged and I quit. And now as an old man, this person is realizing I could have been great. I could have done incredible things. I could have done something magnificent with my life. I could have had a magnificent obsession, as one author calls it, to be obsessed with something in a magnificent way, not an unhealthy way, but to be obsessed and give everything you have and develop your gifts. And I could have done something great with my life, but no one ever told me. If I could have heard this earlier, I'm hoping that you're hearing it now, that you have something in you. You didn't just stumble across this podcast. Well, I listen to all your episodes. Yes, but I'm talking to you right now. I want to read you an excerpt from this book, and I hope this really brings everything full circle. And then after this, we'll end the episode. This is from page 224 in a book called Leadership and Liberty by Orrin Woodward and Chris Brady. I think this was written back around 2009, 2010. Here's what it says. Each individual family member has a choice of what to do with their family's legacy. Some may say, my family does not have a legacy. No one has ever achieved anything of significance in my family. My answer to this is, if that were true, then you will be the first to strive for greatness. Be a script changer for your family. Every legendary family started with no legacy, but with a man or woman with a dream in their heart. Others may say, my family is already very successful and I have nothing to add. My answer is to be a script completer and to continue your family legacy. You have greatness inside of you, and your family has already displayed the way. Maybe your family legacy is an embarrassment to you, but this should be looked at as a challenge to change your family's legacy. Each generation that is born has a responsibility to establish, change, or continue their family legacy. Many choose to ignore the responsibilities of their family name and never attempt anything great to enhance it. I believe that every family has greatness inside of them, and for many, it is just a question of changing their limiting beliefs. As individuals have limiting beliefs, so do families. I tell my children, when the going gets tough, just remember that you are a Woodward, and you will find a way to endure and win. We must help generate the winning beliefs in our families that will help them overcome the obstacles on their own way to their legacies. Hope you enjoyed this episode, guys, and I'll talk to you in episode number 72.